just excited to be here because you and I have had such a deep connection in such a short time that it's just astonishing and such a delight to be part of this.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now I have to acknowledge Tom as well because you both are a dynamic duo creating magic over there at Rural Rootz. So a big hi to Tom as well. So Dee, why don't you share with us a little bit about what was the magic of 2024 for you? What were some of the beautiful things that came forward into your awareness for that year?
I think the biggest thing of all was asking for help. I'm at an age where I should have retired last century, but I don't have the sense I was born with. We absolutely love the 100-acre forest that we live in. And so realizing that this physical body is limiting me from doing the things I used to be able to do. So in coming to that realization, I put it out to the universe that we needed help. And lo and behold, people stepped up to the plate in ways I couldn't even have imagined.
Yeah, that is such a huge gift and such a struggle that so many women face, right? It's not a today struggle. It's been passed down for generations. And I can see even with myself, so many opportunities coming forward where, okay, ask for the help. And there's that fear of no one's going to show up, right? And I wonder where that fear comes from. Or, oh, I don't want to be a burden to others. That's another limiting belief that shows up for so many. But when we put that out there, I find more times than not, we learn one of two things. Either people would love to help us and people will show up because they love us, or we're looking in the wrong places. They just might not be our people. And that's a really big lesson, I think, for us too.
It is because I had that very same experience. I decided that I would hire two women to help in the gardens. And I discovered after a very short period of time that they might have been fine working in normal city gardens, but our garden is in the middle of a forest and it's very unusual. And I just could not keep them on in our service because they were not serving my purpose. They were serving their purpose. And they would come and say, "Oh, we love this place because it's so beautiful. We feel so relaxed. It's so meditative." And yet they never shut up. They were never present. They were always in their head. And this place, if nothing, is about being in the present moment. So as soon as I sent them on their way, that's when the universe was able to provide me with the kind of quality help from people who loved us. And it just altered the whole feeling of the gardens and of our experience here.
Yeah, I love that. Now, you said a couple of really key things. You tried to hire people. And I'm wondering what you think about this because I'm noticing this as well. Money is a currency, but it's not necessarily the currency. And I'm finding it's not the motivating currency that it once was. I am finding that people don't want to, trade their hours for money the way they once did. Instead, they've got to have the passion for it. They've got to have the purpose. They've got to have the love. There has to be something deeper in our souls that resonates with the task. Have you been noticing that as well?
I have noticed that for many, many years, and I liken it to the difference between making a life for yourself and making a living. When you make a life for yourself, you're following your own dream. But when you make a living, you are furthering someone else's dream because you're working for them. And it destroys the creative aspect of living. And so once you stop working for money, but work for pleasure, for goodness, and for the betterment of mankind, then you start having the abundance and all of the things that you need. We don't have a lot of money, but boy, are we rich. You know what our situation is. We built this from nothing, and here we are, 50 years in, still loving every morning, every evening, with all the aches and pains and headaches that go with it. We still love it to pieces.
Yeah, it definitely is a magical place. And it's a magical place because of its caretakers, I personally think. I think you and Tom are the beating heart of Rural Rootz for sure. And I'm reminded of a few years back. So this started for me when I was a single mom in university. I discovered I had to hire a babysitter for Wednesday nights for a class. And I was like, well, if I have to hire a babysitter and the kids are going to be in bed most of the time, what if I hired someone who also cleans houses? And then that frees up time for me to be with the kids on the weekend. And I started that. And I can remember, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I had this lovely, lovely housekeeper in Niagara Falls. And she would sing while she worked. And you could tell she just loved that being of service in making a home for others. And I had a client come for coaching and she's like, oh, whose BMW's in the driveway? And I'm like, oh, I don't ever really even look at car makes. I wouldn't know the difference. And she's like, you have a BMW in your carway. It's like another client here. And I said, oh no, just me and my amazing housekeeper. And she's like, why would a housekeeper drive a BMW? And I'm like, these are things that just don't cross my mind. I don't know, but you can ask her if you like. And so, she came upstairs and she's singing away while she's cleaning. And this client said, do you really drive a BMW in your housekeeper? And she goes, yeah. She said, I don't clean houses for money. Are you kidding? This is not a great way to earn a living. She said, I do this because I love it. I love being blessed to come in other people's homes and help make their home a home so that they can do things like what Sam does and help other people. And the look of astonishment on my
Yep.
client's face, and she just said, I have been doing it all wrong all these years, right? And it was kind of like the aha moment. We all have those beautiful moments and interactions where we're like, oh, I didn't really look at it that way before. And so it was such a beautiful moment for that. And by the way, I'm not saying her name now, but she knows who she is, and I miss you tremendously. I'm just putting that out there to the universe. I miss my singing housekeeper very, very much. But it's true, when we can be in alignment with the things that we do that bring passion and purpose to our life, it frees up space for other people to join us in what they love to do. And that brings me to the second thing you mentioned. You're calling people forward who love to do the things. They're not doing it for money. They're coming forward because they love to do that piece of the help. And that, I think, just adds to that intention and alignment to really help that space come to life.
Yeah, it's really true because I remember years ago when we first moved the garden. That's another story. Anyway, we had moved the garden, and then it was June. The garden's in full bloom. We're in the middle of a forest, literally, and there's no soil. And I'm half Dutch, half English, so I have to garden. And a woman came along and she looked at me and she said, what made you think you could garden here? And I sort of was a little astounded. And I looked at her and said, nobody told me I couldn't. And I think that is one of the biggest things to remember, that who has to give you permission to follow your dream, to do what you need to do to be the expression of consciousness on this planet? Nobody. It's up to you. So here I am, needing to garden desperately, and we had just moved from a 25-acre farm. Well, one of the conditions of sale was that the manure be, and so it was the first time I thought, oh, I can bring my shit with me. And literally, that was the start of my gardens. No one else would
Love that.
have looked at
We
it
all
that
have
way
to
and
take the
thought,
shit with
what
us
a
anyway.
blessing.
Yeah,
I'm
I love
sorry.
it. We're overlapping and timing a little bit here. I was just saying, I love that, Dee, because we all have to take our shit with us anyway. Why not make a garden out of it? Right? That's
Exactly.
consciously creating our life, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because the whole manure thing sort of became a theme, and it, a very good tool for teaching. Because after about 3 years of working just with sand and manure, and by the way, I was giving vegetables away because it was such productive medium to grow in. But after about 3 years, our neighbor next door who had cattle asked if I would like some manure. Now it happened to be May, and I'm just, oh, wonderful. I would love some fresh manure. And right away, his face just dropped and he looked at me as if I was from Mars, because everyone knows that you don't use fresh manure in a garden in May. But true to his word, he brought me this beautiful, steaming, stinky bucket of manure from his tractor. And then he watched as I proceeded to do my book learning. He knew practical stuff, but I knew book learning. And in my book learning, I had discovered that there was something called French intensive gardening in the ground, and then cover it out and trench across a whole garden bed that way. So it does two things. The manure is buried, the seeds, weed seeds cannot germinate because they're too deep. The manure, as it decomposes, gives off heat and germinates the seeds earlier and faster than if it had not been done. So I learned, and he learned, because I had never done this system before. So again, when you think outside the box, when you go after the things that drive your passion, then miracles start to happen.
Beautiful. All right. So I am not sure if I'm the one frozen or if you are the one frozen. Are we back?
I'm seeing you frozen.
Okay. How about now? Am I good now?
No, there was a little echo in your voice, a little hesitation.
Okay. Well, hopefully I'll come back. I caught the part about miracles happening, which I love this story so much, and I'm sure people will resonate with it too. So hopefully I'm back now and you can see me and hear me okay.
I could see you okay. I could always see you, but you went into like a freeze frame mode.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's good now.
Okay.
We're gonna just trust that we're going well. And it's okay if I freeze a little bit on the recording because you're the one with the magical wisdom we want to hear from. So I could hear you. It's kind of like a little spotty, but I think we're back. I think we're back. And you know what? These are the things that life's made of, right? Life is made of moments where, we have to freeze for a little bit, where we are not heard exactly the way we intend, and we're just going to be in real life here, so works out really well. So you're heading into 50th year on Rural Rootz, and if you were to say what has been the biggest surprise in that journey, because we head into journeys with an idea in our mind of what it's going to be. And I know from talking to you that many things have grown from it that you never planned in the first place, but intentionally the universe provided it for you. But what would you say is the biggest surprise that you've been blessed with there?
Oh dear. Yeah, as you say, how can I count them? There are so many. I think the fact that we listened to the land and we respected the land, and as a result, the land provided for us. When we first moved here, there was no place to live. There was no house, no electricity, no water. And at age 30, I wanted to be here. Thank goodness Tom agreed. And the whole idea now of what we did and how we did it, we were pioneers. I mean, we lived without running water for a year and a half. We, yeah, whoa. No, you don't want to hear those stories. But
remember, I've been living it for the last 6 months. No hydro,
yeah,
going to the spring for the water. It's a different experience. It does come with its own blessings in addition to the challenges, for sure. So you're in good company. Although I went to the Y for my showers. I cheated in that way.
So basically it was the surprise of allowing the land to guide us. We had I had no idea why I wanted to be here. It was just this very deep passion. And I knew that if I didn't work on that passion, I would regret it all my life. And because we cared about the land, because we cared enough to protect it, put a conservation easement on it, which basically devalued the highest potential monetary return, things came into being to subsidize our income in ways we'd never dreamt of. For example, we have a cellular tower on our property. And people go, oh my God, all the EMFs and whatnot, how dangerous to have that on your land. Well, we have a meter that tells us that the EMFs outside our house are less than the ones inside. So again, the property has provided us. And I think that was the biggest surprise of all, that we did not have to make a living. We were just supposed to make a life here. And once we got on that track, then more miracles started to happen.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Listening to the land, trusting we're in the right space, just going with where our soul is leading us without fighting it, without rationalizing it, opens up doors for us for sure.
Yes. For example, at one point we were growing up to 1,000 plants and selling them the following summer. And I noticed that in August of any summer, plant sales were dropping off. And I said to Tom, we need to augment our sales in some way. And so I said to him, I want to do paintings to honor and grace the garden, to go outside. And he just sort of rolled his eyes like husbands are wont to do. But he provided me with circles, boards that are in the shape of a circle to paint on. That first, excuse me, that first summer, I sold 125 paintings. As of today, it's probably something like 2,000. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot because I started in 1998. But what you have to remember is that I have met every single person who I have sold a painting to, because I only sell them from here from Mother's Day until Thanksgiving. So it's a very short window. It's a very limited audience that I'm playing to. And yet the artwork has taken over to the point now that we have a gift shop. And who knew that I would be making jewelry, that I would be creating cards and bookmarks and writing books and publishing books here that no one except people who come here ever see. It's it's self-contained world that we live in, where we do everything ourselves. It's not that we don't want to outsource things. It's just the challenge of being able to do it ourselves that is so satisfying.
Yeah. And I am one of the very fortunate recipients of one of those paintings. I have my rooster on my chicken coop, and everyone who sees it is like, oh, that is beautiful. Where do I get it? And I'm like, you are not finding this online. You need to go see my very dear friend, and she is, and I want to say, you've expanded from those circles. There's lots of things now that you paint. My
Yes.
favorite, I think, is the hubcap flowers. I think those are my favorite, what you have. You just have this real knack for taking things that others would find useless, that others would toss away. And I want to credit both you and Tom for this, because I think you both are very gifted in this. And taking those things and seeing the beauty and saying, I'm going to help the beauty shine. And just
Mm,
transforming things into something beautiful and useful that others find magic in again. And I think that's a
mhm.
real gift that you guys have for sure.
Well, thank you. Because when I tell people about my gardens when before they have been here, I say, well, just imagine truck tires, dump tractor tires, a whole bunch of rocks and stuff, and they go, "What?" But when you see the actuality of it, it really is quite beautiful.
It very much is very, very beautiful. I wanted to talk a little bit about transformation for a moment, because right now, I think we can all agree our world is transforming, our societies are transforming, our bank accounts are transforming, our personal lives
Mm,
are transforming. And a lot of people come to me from that space of fear over all this transformation. And I talk often about that process of being in that cocoon and getting squeezed, but understanding that at the end of that cocoon, we become the butterfly. We go through these periods so that we can become more. And sometimes we don't know what color our wings are going to be. Sometimes we don't know what it looks like at the end, but trusting that something beautiful is coming. And so you have been blessed to be on this space for almost 50 years. You've certainly seen transformation there in yourselves, in the world, and you're constantly getting excited about transformation. I know this because I've seen your creative process. Sometimes you're like, I don't know what this is, but you know what? I'm going with it. And it's always wonderful. And so I wondered if you can share a little bit of wisdom around transformation, around that intuitive process in the transformation, and how you see the world working out.
well, this is really strange because the thoughts that have just come into my mind are a very personal one. And it's a reflection of my personal growth into taking responsibility for me. And it all started about 3 years into my relationship with Tom. Tom is a dear, sweet man who all he wants to do is whatever it takes to keep Dee happy. And that grated on me. That just absolutely grated on me. And so one day we were walking down to the mailbox, and all of a sudden I had an epiphany, and I stopped dead in my tracks. I pointed my finger at him and I said, "You can't make me happy. I make me happy being around you." And both of us just sort of went, "What?" And then we realized that we were trying to do something for the other that was not really authentic. Because when you say whatever it takes, what if Tom didn't want to do the whatever I wanted? It didn't make sense. So once you start taking responsibility for your own life, and once you start realizing that your partner or the ones that you're working with cannot read your mind. So if you're in what I call a mood way, it's only proper to announce that first thing and say, "I'm in a mood way. Whatever happens is not your fault." And that way, I'm taking responsibility, but I'm also making the other person take responsibility for their own actions and not think that there is something wrong with them because of me, if that makes any sense.
It does.
So if you apply that to the global situation right now, it's very much the same thing. We think, well, we're just this small thing, this little me. How can we possibly have any influence on the world? Well, after 50 years of being here, we have had, I can't tell you how many people come and say, you changed my life. There was a woman this summer who came back and she could not stop the flow of tears. They were what I call cry for happy, because she had had an epiphany here. She had had an experience that was life altering for her. And all of a sudden, she became more like herself. So just being present and being aware of what is going on instead of what you think is going on. A very good story about that is when we had to have a new roof put on our house. And a friend did as well. And she was saying she was so worried about her bank account going down and her investments and whatnot. And I said to her, well, think of it this way. When is the last time you have seen all of your investments and all of your money in a physical form in front of you? Never. So what actually happened? And my explanation was, for us, we had 4 men who came and put a new roof on our house. In exchange for all their time and effort, all we did was give them a little piece of paper with our signature on it. That is the physical reality. Yes, our bank account went down, but that is not a physical reality. If the banks had failed that very day, those poor men would have been out the money that they had earned, whereas we still would have the roof on our house. So it's a matter of looking at things and breaking them down into what is really happening, not what we think is happening.
Yeah. I love that. I love that analogy. And that idea, we come back to it again. Finances and money are one form of currency, but we have many, many, many forms of currency. Our time, hugs, kindness, wisdom, like all of these things come down to those forms of currency. And when we look at all of those and we ask ourselves which one is the most valuable, I don't know very many people that will say it is their bank account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's an interesting life that we lead because we have been so programmed to look outside of ourselves for validation. And actually, we were born with all the wisdom we need to live our lives completely if we but trust that inner wisdom. And for me, that has been one of the longest and hardest journeys, from the mind to the heart. It's not a long distance, but by George, it is one hell of a long journey at times. So learning to trust your intuition and acting on it. And so what if you fail? If you don't make mistakes, then you haven't really lived and engaged in life.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It is part of this whole human experience to fall down and get bruised knees and get back up again and learn to do it in a new way. And in order to really appreciate all the joys, we sometimes have to fall and make mistakes.
That's how children learn to walk. We don't berate them when they fall down. We don't berate them as they're learning to walk. So why would we berate ourselves when we're learning to have a new experience. For me, it's called the art of the possible, because I'm possible. Impossible doesn't exist for me.
And that is how you turned poop and sand into a growing medium
Yep.
that
Yep.
impressed the best of gardeners. It's that whole idea around, you know, if the thought comes forward and we have a reaction to it, then how could it not work out? How could it not? It's already charged right from inception.
Exactly. And if we can conceive it, I know it's that old saying, but if we can conceive it, it has to be real on some level. And that is sort of like the premise of my dragons. I went through a whole phase of painting dragons and creating something called Spirit Walk, where there are 7 fanciful dragons that protect our garden. So when people say to me, why dragons? And I say to them, well, dragons are real. And they, look at me. And then I point out that when I say the word dragon, you immediately have some kind of image come up in your head about a dragon. So if that image exists in your mind, it must be real on some level. The level that it is real on is an energetic one, because it has been dreamed as part of our planet in every society, and therefore there's a power, there's a strength that has been built up behind it. And once you tap into that ability to recognize archetypal energy, then you can use that energy to create your world, your dream, and whatever it is you want.
I love it. I love it. And I want to say as well, my grandchildren, their favorite every summer. What would you like to do at the end of the summer? I want to go visit Miss T and Uncle and Mr. Tom, because Bentley wants to go get his dragon egg. And I remember the one day he was playing at the park and he's holding his dragon egg, and one of the other boys like, "What is that?" And he goes, "It's my dragon egg." And he said, "Well, it's not real." And Bentley said, "But I'm holding it. I'm holding it. So how is it not real? We both can see it." And he said, "But dragons aren't real." And he said, "Oh, they are though, because my Miss D gave me this dragon egg."
You're going into freeze frame again.
Oh, am I freezing again? Let me see. Am I okay
Yeah.
now? Perfect. So Bentley said,
Nope.
"My Miss
No,
D."
you're not yet.
Oh dear. See, these are the bumps with technology that we just go with the flow and
Exactly.
all right. Let me know when I'm ready. Am I good now?
Something has come up for me. Set up professional audio in audio settings.
Oh, I don't know what that is. I don't think that's Zoom though.
I don't either.
We're
I'm
just gonna
sorry.
go with it. Because I think we're okay. But let me know if I phase out again or if I freeze out again. I was just sharing, Bentley was
Okay.
holding his egg and he said, "But my Miss D, she gave me this egg and she wouldn't give me something that wasn't real." And so he loves coming to
Mm,
see you for his dragon eggs and his stories. And, you know, what little boy doesn't believe in dragons, right? And that's the
right.
closest we are to our source, to, you know, whatever your background of beliefs is. Childhood is and before we cross are closest to being our true selves. And we have all these little boys who come in knowing dragons are real, princesses, you know, and dragons and angels and puppy dogs, and all of these beautiful things are all equally real in the mind of a child. So who are we to say that they don't exist?
And that is, oh, sorry, you're freezing again.
Okay. You go on then, Dee, because I can hear you just fine.
Okay. What I was going to say is that the dragons play a very important role here in reminding the grown-ups about their inner child. And it's such an interesting thing because we'll have an older couple come along. The woman is the gardener, all excited about gardens. And the man is just, another friggin' garden. I've set things up. You have to announce yourself to the dragons, to the seven fanciful dragons, by sounding a gong. And honestly, it is hilarious to watch these old poops who have to ring this gong. And all of a sudden, it's like a light bulb goes on in their head. And oh, maybe this isn't just another garden. Then they discover that there are a couple of labyrinths, and those are walking meditations. Who heard of that in a garden? Oh, and what on earth is a sound garden? Well, it's a place where Hundred Acre Woods is very much oriented toward the child in the grown-up more than the grown-up in the child, if that makes any sense. Children love our place, yes, but the purpose is to get the adult to remember that he or she is a child of this planet and that it's a playground for us. For God's sakes, drop that seriousness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it reminds me the first time that I got to ring the gong, I had a couple huge deadlines. So I had come to see you guys a day early thinking, okay, I'm going to get a bunch of work done before my students all arrive. And so I'm sitting there and Tom had come in to get something and he said, "Why are you in here today?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just trying to get all this work done." And he's like, "Okay, make sure you get outside." I'm like, "Absolutely. I'm going to plow through this and get outside." And so I was so in my head. And I come over and he had me ring the gong. And it was just like a wake up call, like, okay, that stuff does not even matter, but this moment matters. And I do this stuff for a living. And it still was magical for me. And just that reminding of come back into the now.
Yeah.
In all of its beautiful layers. And yeah, it's a beautiful reminder. And I have a practice too, even where when I step into my home or I get home to my property, of just that deep breath and saying, okay, none of that matters, because right now this is what matters. This is the magic of right now, whether that be watching chickens or enjoying the ducks laughing at Chris when he tries to put them back in their bed, or watching the northern lights dance behind our campfire. Whatever it is, that matters so much more than the mundane that I leave behind at the office, right?
Exactly. And for Tom and I, we are blessed to live and work 24 hours a day together on this wonderful piece of land. And this is the biggest blessing in our lives, to think that, yeah, well, you've been here, you know how wonderful it is. And we never take it for granted. But the one thing that I really have to remind people about is a very wonderful indigenous idea of a burden basket. And the idea is that there, outside the teepee or the lodge, there would be a little basket. And that was where you put all of your troubles, all of your concerns before you went into the house or the living part of the uh, or the longhouse. And so the idea of a burden basket I use quite often with friends who come here who are burdened and distraught. And so put your burdens into this little basket. And then we just carry on with our visit or whatever, and tell them at the end, do you still want to take those with you? Because they're there if you want them. So it's, again, all these little reminders that we have choices. We have the choice to carry a burden with us, but we also have a choice to let it go. And the important thing is to let it go before you get into a social situation where it can create a negative atmosphere that actually impacts on everyone. So changing your mindset.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful reminder, and just another way that we can be consciously creating our life. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, Dee, as we are embarking on this brand new time in our lives as 2025, if there was one piece of wisdom that you can share with our viewers for making this the most magical year yet, for allowing them to step into their lives and into their purpose and promise, what would that one thing be?
Read Winnie the Pooh.
I love that. Spoken like a true
I know,
teacher.
I know it sounds very flippant, but honestly, the wisdom in Winnie the Pooh, it's something that I read to my grade 1 class every year, because it delves into all the emotional levels that we as adults don't acknowledge, don't deal with. And as a result, all of that negative stuff builds up in our bodies, results in not just discomfort of mind, but also disease of body. And so Winnie the Pooh has the answers. Believe me, it's strange, but it's true. So that would be it. Go
I
read
love
Winnie the
that.
Pooh. Return to your childhood, and have a happy childhood no matter what age you are.
I love that so much. And we need that medicine in our life of remembering that whether we are 47 or 97, we still need to be living our happy childhood. So thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Mhm.
Now, how can everyone find you and Tom if they want to follow your journey, or if they want to see what magic you're creating? What are the best ways to connect?
Our website and our Facebook page, because I don't have an online gift shop. I'm far too busy just creating stuff for sale here. And so it's just something that people have to be inspired to come and visit us.
Yeah.
And once you're here, you'll find that there's so much to do. We have been adopted by the Bruce Trail, so we have the only satellite trail in the entire length of the trail. And we have an internal trail system. We have crevice caves. We have a 10-acre beaver pond. And it's just a magical 100-acre woods, just like where Winnie the Pooh lives.
I love it. I love it. And so I want to honor you guys are open. Is it Labor Day to Thanksgiving? Or sorry, May 24th to Thanksgiving? Is that what your hours are?
It's pretty well from Mother's Day. Mother's
Mother's
Day
Day.
through to Thanksgiving. We have regular hours, 10 to 4. And then after Labor Day or before Mother's Day, it's by appointment. And all you have to do is either email or phone, and we'll be here. And from from Labor Day to Thanksgiving, we're always open, except when we're not. I call it mostly open, sometimes not, because
I
we don't
love your
have.
shut days. They're such a great reminder of those times when we just need to, today I'm not open. Today I'm doing for me. I love it. So I always smile when I see that you're having a shut day.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being a part of the summit.
You're welcome, darling. You know how I feel about you.
Beautiful. All right, guys, stay tuned. We've got more speakers coming up, and you'll definitely want to check out Dee's information. I've got it down below in the show notes. If you want to connect with her, please do. And we will see you very soon.